Lieberman, and we are at the Woodward Dream Cruise today, broadcasting out of PMD Automotive. And I have a special guest with me right now, Gordon Heidecker, president of PMD Automotive. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the amazing things that he brings to the automotive world. Welcome, Gordon.
Hey, thanks, Mark. It's good to see you.
Tell us a little bit about what PMD is doing today.
Well, PMD is doing a race cart that's all electric right now for M1 Concours. We've been working on it for about 2 years, and it's a unique, special designed, completely CAD designed race cart that's fully lithium-ion powered. And we are testing it one more time or two more times in September, and then we're going to actually put the owner of M1 in it and see how he reacts.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, this whole concept of electric-powered go-karts, this is a whole new deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of things with the track, and, you know, it's in the middle of a bunch of homes. So when you start to talk about running a track at night and you're trying to race, you can't do things after a certain time. So one of the things Paul wanted to do, and the challenge to us was, can I do an electric race cart that'll last long enough so we do a good number of races, get enough people through it, but more importantly, keep it quiet. And he didn't want to buy a bunch of carts, so he said, can we hot swap the batteries? So we've designed a very purpose-built cart that meets, I think, the needs of what we're challenged with M1. But what's really nice is it grew into something that can be run at a bunch of different tracks around the country. So we have interested parties, you know, in Florida, other tracks around the country, some in Texas, and we'll see what happens. But right now we're really excited because Tammy, our race car driver, also happens to be our admin, is an accomplished SCCA racer. And yes, Tammy's behind me. She just said something. But anyway, so she gave it the thumbs up. So we're really looking forward to it.
Sounds great. Now, electric go-karts isn't the only thing that PMD does. Tell us a little bit about some of your other projects. I know that you do some advanced engine building here as well.
We do. Right now we're doing things all the way from a DOD project, which has to do with diesel engines and braidable coatings. We've been doing that for about 1.5 years. We'll build the engine, we'll do all the work, and we'll send it down for testing on a dyno and then bring it back. We've also just bought a Superflow dyno, so we'll be putting that in place in Woodward, so we can actually do actual calibration on advanced, say, engine development. But we also recently bought all the inventory for Mopar of the Viper engines. And so we've got, right, as you can see from here, a lot of Viper engines sitting on the floor, a lot of blocks, a lot of cranks, a lot of heads, and a lot of timing covers. One of my partners, Sean Visser, used to run all the Viper work at Prefix, and then also before that at Aero Racing, and so has a lot of experience in Viper engines, and we're starting to get calls around the country for Viper engine rebuilds, which has been great.
Now, this is not your first foray with Viper anything, is it? Let's wind back the clock for a minute and talk a little bit about your history with Chrysler, Viper, and Prowler.
Well, I was very fortunate. I think early on I was able to, I guess, blessed to have my car passion combined with my vocation. And so early on, as I started to go through things at Chrysler, this little program called the Viper showed up in 1989. And obviously, being a car guy, I got stuck into that very, very quickly and started working with the team on basically the transmission side of it. Early on, when we built the first white car, I got to actually test drive that out at the proving grounds, came back with a permanent grin on my face. And I did that in a suit. Back in those days, we had to wear a tie, and
of course,
you know, I sweated through the suit riding the car out in the sunshine on the skid pad, but it was great. Fast forward in 1993, I was tapped by the then vice president of purchasing, Tom Stallkamp, and he said, "Hey, I got a project for you. It's called the Prowler." And I said, "What's a Prowler?" And Tom Gale and his team had worked on some advanced stuff. I got thrown right into that and worked from 93 to 97 till launch on the Prowler, doing all of the advanced technology. So it was great. But later on in 2007, when Cerberus owned Chrysler, they said, "Hey, we want to take Viper, carve it out, sell it as a separate entity." And I said, "Hey, you guys can't do that." And so about a week later, they said, "Hey, guess what? You're the new CEO of Viper, and you're going to be leading the charge to sell it." And I said, "Oh, great." So anyway, fortunate for me, things being what they were, Chrysler stopped producing Vipers, and the valuation of the firm dropped, and we never sold it. And you saw the Gen 4, Gen 5 come out of that at Chrysler. under the auspices of folks that had the passion, like Ralph Gilles and some other guys. So it stayed there until it died in 2017, and we stayed involved with the engine side. And, continuity being what it is, we've always been kind of somewhat in and out of Viper.
Now, take a look at the soaring rise in collectability of Vipers. I mean, we see a whole bunch of them out on Woodward today, paraded by. You even have your Viper out on display in the parking lot. It is really quite an amazing thing what has come to the table, what you guys developed, brought to market, and today is considered to be an amazing collectible benchmark for an important staple of Chrysler's builds.
Yeah, I don't think it was purposely done that way, but I think what happened was, at the time, Dodge needed a rallying cry, and Lutz and Iacocca and those guys with Tom Gale came out with this very sexy design that they showed at the auto show. And they made a run at saying, hey, if we can build this, then we can do a lot with Dodge. And over time, part of the collectability is that I think a lot of them have been destroyed. So a lot of people got in the cars, thought that they could drive them beyond their limits and crashed them. So maybe the first gen, second gen, maybe 50% of them survived. Mine's the first gen. I bought it off the original owner, who was a studio chief back in the day, and I've enjoyed the car ever since. It only has 24,000 miles on it. I think it's doubled or tripled in price from what I paid for it. And, hey, I'm not complaining, but I don't want to sell it. Right.
No, they're amazing cars. One other thing that we should touch base on, too, is that you have another high-tech venture that you're involved in, PureForge. Tell us a little bit about this amazing brake technology.
Well, the cool part about the technology is that we've come up with a very tough treatment that goes on cast iron rotors. This treatment basically takes the brake pad, our formulation of the brake pad, creates a transfer layer, and without really getting into all the technical detail, it creates a transfer layer that protects the rotor from wear. And so what you're doing is you're taking brake pad against brake pad, and you're doing what we call adherent braking. And so our brake rotors, we haven't worn one out yet, last 200,000 miles. Our pads last maybe 160 to 170,000 miles. And you don't have to replace the rotor. You just put new pads in if the pads do wear out. We recently put some on a couple of race cars, and they have gone 4x the normal wear cycle and are still no wear on the rotor, and the pads are still intact and running. And we were doing testing. We just signed a contract with a large OEM. And the other cool things is we can actually put logos on the brake rotor surface that will survive the length and the time or life of the rotor. So imagine you can put Lamborghini or Porsche or Audi on the rotor surface. Doesn't change your braking capability and gives you another performance module or performance add-on that actually has the brand on it. So it's imaging, it's performance, a lot of really cool things. We're just coming out with this, and we're probably going to, if you look around, we're probably going to see it proliferate a lot more after this year. We're looking at some actual vehicle volume next year, and we're doing that here in Pontiac, which is a great thing because we're bringing industry to Pontiac.
That's great. Another milestone for the city of Pontiac and for the automotive industry. It sounds like you're doing some amazing things. We really appreciate you hosting the venue here for us. And we're going to take another quick break here on My Michigan TV. I'm Mark Lieberman. We're broadcasting out of PMD Automotive on Woodward Avenue in front of the Woodward Dream Cruise. We'll be right back.